Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy TK, and today I'm here with Finalizer. Finalizer, go ahead and introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Finalizer, and I'm one of the ship designers for Star Blast. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm one of the developers, but in this case, I created the U series, which quite a few of you have played and know about, which we're playing right now. So this is a variation on the U Sniper, which is a Tier 5 ship in Star Blast. And I just decided that it was a really fun ship to play around with, and I thought, hey, let's make an entire ship tree based off of it. And so this is the result. So each of the ships here has like some sort of weird weaponry on it. That was a cause of me just playing around with the ship editor. So this one basically shoots laser beams. And the one that we see drifting over here is a U-Wall. That was actually one of the first ships that I made. And it wasn't actually for this mod, but rather was just for fun, just to see how many U-Wings or cannons I could put on one single ship. And, well, it's a little bit overpowered, but that's why it's a tier 7. So, yeah.
By the way, I am a huge fan of your U series. I mentioned it a little bit in Kleinum's interview that I was a major fan of like your U series, and it really taps into everything I love about Star Blast. You know, there are two things I love about Star Blast. One, I love ships that are tanky. Like the Y Defender, Barracuda, things like that. And two, I love ships that have a lot of firepower, and these tap into both.
Yeah, so the thing about this U series is that every single ship is basically overpowered in its own way. But when you have a ship tree that's full of overpowered ships, it kind of balances out, except for maybe one or two of them, which I did notice when the U series was being played as a regular mode. However, I think it came out pretty well. But yeah, so basically every ship has the capability to destroy a base in seconds. And that was probably an unintended side consequence. But whatever the case, I think it turned out pretty well.
So I have a lot of questions that I could ask you about your U series, but before we get into all that, I think it'd be best to start out with how did you get into Star Blast? Like, how long have you been playing the game?
Oh, I started out playing Agario, which is the blob game where you just try to eat everybody.
As did I. I used to play that a lot also. Then I discovered Star Blast.
Yeah, and then I kind of got bored of it after a while, and that's when I found, I think it was diep.io. And that one I stayed around on for quite a while just because it was a really fun tank game. And I'd never really seen anything like it. Then that became boring after a while. So I just kind of floated around in IO games, just seeing which ones seemed fun to me. And I think I drifted around. There was zoms.io, or no, that was brains.io. I think I did see zoms, but eventually I found Star Blast, which I was kind of fell in love with on first sight, though I was a little bit confused as to how all of the mechanics worked and wasn't really good from the start. But eventually I learned and started becoming better and better. But I think this is a hugely underrated game in the sense that not as many players play it as some of the larger IO games, but I feel like the effort that's gone into this one is much higher. And we can see with all of the graphics and stuff.
So were you automatically good at the game at first, or how long did it take for you to get, good at it?
I just started playing against some of the better players and just kind of got better from there. I haven't been playing a lot of death matches, as it's called. I used to be pretty high up on the leaderboard, but just kind of fell down through the ranks after a while, just from inactivity. But that inactivity was coming from me just building ships instead of, playing the game. And that was before modding came out, so I really had no way of testing them, but I still had fun making ships in the ship editor.
So what are some of your favorite ships?
In the original game, I'd say the Condor is probably one of my favorites. Everyone plays the Ace Speedster, but I don't know, I'm not as impressed with it. I mean, it's good, but I just wanted to see if I could get any better by playing with the Condor, because it has a better regen than some of the other ships. It can fire quite a few pulses off of it in a short time.
I'm not really that good at the Ace Speeder or the Condor. I mean, those to me seem like the main dueling ships that people like to
Yeah.
use, and I always fail at A speeder duels.
Mhm.
I'm pretty okay with advanced fighter duels though.
Yeah, 'cause those are large and bulky ships, and yeah, they do pack quite a punch. And actually, I think they do much better against a speedster than other ships. But the thing about the A speedster and the Condor is just like first off, you have to have pretty good latency in the sense that you don't have much lag. And the other thing is, I don't know, it just requires a bit of skill that once you do have it, you can really use the ship as a powerful weapon.
So about your U series, I don't know how to begin this because I am a huge fan of all these ships, and I could go on for hours just talking about how you made all these ships, like the Andromeda. Like, how did you even get the Andromeda to have that many cannons?
Boredom is the product of most of these ships. Is just I get really bored one day and I think, let me build a ship that's sometimes completely completely ludicrous in its design. And yeah, so I get really bored some days and I just build ships for fun. And some of these ships, I think, let's see, the U Penta, the U Siege, and the Andromeda and the U Wall are all original ships in the sense that I made them before modding was even a thing or knew it was going to be a thing. But yeah, those ships were just made to kind of show off, hey, this is a funny ship, let's laugh at it on the subreddit. However, kind of became a bit more serious once I learned about modding, and I was like, oh, hey, I can use these ships in the U series. And I just kind of went off from there. I figured out where I wanted to place those ships in the ship tree, and that helped out a lot because then I could base off the rest of the series off of those certain ships. Like I knew that the Andromeda was going to be a ship with guns all around it, so I kind of worked backwards, just making ships that were less powerful but had the same idea as the Andromeda. So let's say it had 12 guns, and then the tier below that had 8 guns, and then the tier below that had 6 guns, just all the way down to the U Sniper, and just kind of downgraded the designs from there. So it's kind of a reverse process. But the U Vengeance, which is another tier 7, that one I made actually probably, I think it was my 4th ship that I built after learning about, or after getting access to the ship editor. And that one's just because I'm a huge Trekkie. And I think it was Star Trek Into Darkness it was. The USS Vengeance was a ship that I really liked. So I managed to build it in the editor. And I just was kind of running out of ideas for U series ships for tier 7. So I just added that one in as kind of like the Shadow X3 of the group.
So do you take inspiration from anything?
Mostly Star Trek, but in this case, I think it was just the U Sniper was the only ship I took inspiration off. I just tried to see how many variations could I come up with, and without getting ridiculously overpowered. But I mean, I still wanted there to be some level of overpoweredness with the tier 7s. But I think most of my inspiration comes off of sci-fi shows like Star Trek, Star Wars, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's pretty much it. Just based it off of the Star Blast ships.
Well, you and Clem are both, I would say, geniuses when it comes to designing ships, because the ship I was next to a few seconds ago before I was killed was definitely, I think, like just a true marvel of designing.
Oh, which one was that? Yeah, you can just describe it.
I didn't quite get the name, but it was just like just a huge ship.
Was it a hammer?
Well, that one's really cool too. The point is, all of your ships, just really cool, and just I love the designs of all of them. I really admire all the time it probably took to create all these. I'm actually also trying to create my own series of ships, by the way. I want to make an attack drone series.
Ooh, that's going to be hard.
After you came out with your U series, I was like, I kind of want to make my own series of ships now. And so I was like, I want to do an attack drone series.
Yeah.
Just small ships, but they have a lot of power. By the way, you actually took one of my ideas. Like, well, you didn't take one of my ideas. But one day, I think this was actually while I was making the video of your U series. All right, so I had this idea to make a ship that was like a pirate ship, but the cannons were on the sides, right? And so
Hmm.
sometimes somewhere this actually didn't make it into the video, by the way. So this was like, I don't know, cut out or something. I don't remember why. But I remember you coming up to me. You were this ship, right? And then you start coming up to me, but you start turning slightly. I'm thinking to myself, what's he doing? And then when I see the guns come out the
Oh, that
sides of
one.
the ship, I was like, wait a minute, I had that idea. And I was like, well, that's pretty much out the window now.
Oh yeah, with the what was it? I can't remember the name of it, but broadside. There we go. Yeah, so broadside shots. Those are shots from the sides of the ships. And I think actually, oh yeah, that reminds me of another game that I used to play, which was Doblons.io, which is basically a pirate ship game. And that was all about broadside cannons and just getting the advantage. But yeah, I definitely wanted there to be a ship that had broadside cannons on it in the U series. And so that was, I think, the U Monitor is what I named it. And it's a really cool ship. And that's probably one of my favorite designs. I wanted it to be like a hybrid of the Andromeda and the U wall. So I wanted there to be like cannons that were facing towards the side as well as cannons towards the front. So I thought that was a pretty good hybrid of the two ships. That's the other thing about creating a series of ships, is that there are a lot of ships you have to make. It takes a really long time just designing all those new and original ideas. And you don't want to get too unoriginal with them. But I think I did pretty well with this series in terms of originality.
Yeah, I know it takes a long time to design a ship. Every time I try to design a ship, I always spend like an hour or so just trying to think of an original idea, just sort of toying around with the settings,
Mm-hmm.
the HTML. And it's hard to get a good looking like original design, especially when you're someone like me and you don't know how to code very
Mm-hmm.
well. So, can you tell everyone a little bit about how you got your UCP?
Oh, yeah. So that's actually a badge, ship designer badge, and quite a few people, including Kleinum, has that sort of badge. Except Kleinum got a UCP for his contributions. But UCPs, which are custom, I guess, icons for their ECPs, those have to be earned, and they are earned through some major contribution to the game, in the sense that, like, creating an entire, like, I think Iridium Ore got his UCP for, he's the owner of the Star Blast Discord, so he got his UCP for that major contribution, and not one of the sister channels that are based off of Star Blast, but rather the original one, same as the subreddit, or the original subreddit for Star Blast. But stuff like that, it takes major contributions in order to get those. But for the badge that I have, which is shipbuilder badge, those are earned if one of your ships gets into the, the Battle Royale. And those ships are kind of like tier 3, tier 4 ships that you have to design. And PNGL decided to choose one of my ships as the Battle Royale, or yeah, for the Battle Royale. And as a result, I got the shipbuilder badge.
Can you give everyone some tips on how to design their own ships?
Okay, so when it comes to creating ships, I really recommend ship bashing, which is taking components of different ships and adding them together to create a completely new ship. And that's how a lot of people have learned how to use the ship editors, by putting all those pieces together to make completely new ships. However, when it comes to more complex design, that's where you kind of have to learn how to use the code. That's a bit harder, but it takes a lot of time and just learning the system, and a lot of trial and error too. And that's kind of how I learned, was just through trial and error, by figuring out what worked in the code and what doesn't. But again, it takes a lot of practice to learn how to master the ship editor. And I think PMGL himself said that it's not the best editor, but if you do know how to use it properly, you can use it in quite amazing ways. Like, I think a while ago I made a bird that had really organic design to it through just, I think it was wings, which is a part of the ship editor. But there's just these little terms in the ship editor that are kind of hard to understand as a newbie to the ship editor. But again, I'd say just learn through trial and error. Try to edit values of a starter ship like the Fly, and just go from there. See what you can do, and just like try to push yourself and get creative. That's pretty much all I have to say about designing with a ship editor. It just takes a lot of time to learn it.
So, with the new updates of the game, how do you feel about the mods?
I feel like mods are pretty great so far. It's definitely one of the bonuses is now I get to try out all of my ship designs. However, I definitely hope to see more stuff coming out of the mods.
Is there any improvements that you think the developer could make with the modding and everything?
Um, let's see. I mean, let's see. As a Trekkie, I would love to be able to have different ship trees for different bases in team mode. So like a different base would correspond to a different ship tree. And if they were able to get something like that working, then I would be really impressed. I think you might be able to do it based off of some true or false values in the modding editor. But yeah, I'm really surprised with what they've done so far with the editor, considering how it used to be supposedly impossible to do the stuff that we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm extremely impressed with what they're doing with the alpha version of the mods. And I've mentioned it before that I'm extremely excited for what they're going to come out with for the beta version.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see some really good new features in the beta version. I think, let's see, Dank Dimitron and Uranus, those or Orbiter, those guys really know how to use JavaScript and are able to create some pretty fantastic mods already from the existing software. But hopefully, the next update or two should be able to support those features better and get some more complex features in.
So before we end this interview, I have what I call the 5-second speed round, and it's basically just a little segment where I ask you some questions, and you have 5 seconds to answer them. These are just really silly questions that have nothing to do with gaming, nothing to do with Star Blast, nothing to do with anything. These are just random questions to help people get to know you a little better. So are you ready for these questions?
Yeah, totally.
All right, first question. Favorite game growing up?
Ooh, there's a really old Mac game called Maelstrom, which is a bit more spoofy version of Asteroids. It was only available on the Macintosh computer, but I just absolutely loved it when I was a kid.
For me, growing up, I don't remember if anyone still remembers the game Gauntlet. It was a PlayStation 2 game, but that was my absolute favorite game to play. That and Kingdom Hearts, and that's what I played a lot growing up. Childhood memories.
Oh yeah, I only had PCs growing up, so no consoles of any sorts.
This isn't one of the questions, but do you, just as a side note, do you have a favorite, gaming platform?
I mean, I've only gone on PC so far, but I hope to get a VR at some point. That would be super sweet.
Oh, my favorite platform to game on was definitely the PlayStation 2 and the PSP. Like I still play my PlayStation Portable like all the time. So next question. If there was going to be a movie about you, what would you call it?
Science.
Science?
Science with Finalizer or something like that.
All right. What animal sidekick would you choose?
Probably a giant spider.
Would you consider a hot dog a sandwich?
Actually, that's a good point. I'd consider it more of a sub than a sandwich. So I'm going to put that as no.
If you could bring any mythical creature to life, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's go with no, the dodo was real and it went extinct like 300 years ago. Just off of the one that I know, let's go with the Hydra.
That's a good one. I'd probably bring like the Minotaur to life.
Oh, I should have said Pegasus or something like that, because then
Well,
we could be able to fly.
Actually, I think it'd probably be like something dragon related, like a gargoyle or something.
Then it would eat people.
Sure. There's a lot of really good choices. Like I don't know, like maybe I think I would.
Fine, I'll go with dragon.
I think I'd go with a
gargoyle.
Gargoyle.
Right.
Yeah, I'd probably go with a gargoyle. Would you rather live where it's constantly hot or it's constantly cold?
I already live in somewhere where it's constantly cold, so I'm fine with that because I don't know. I can endure the cold much more than I can endure the heat.
What is your least favorite food?
Ooh, I'll put eggplant as that.
Eggplant?
I don't know, it's just a little bit squishy. Too squishy for my taste.
I'm a fan of most food, but something I will not eat is olives. I don't know why. It's just something about olives. I don't like olives.
Yeah, a bit too salty for me too.
Yeah, and final question. How do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Oh, this one. I'd say whoever likes it, go ahead. That's your thing. Go ahead and do it.
I've mentioned it before. Like, I don't really mind pineapple on pizza. Like, if it was there, I'll eat it. Like,
Neither do I.
I've had it before, and it didn't really taste any different than normal pizza. It just tasted like regular pizza, but with some pineapple on it. Like, I didn't think anything of it. So, thanks for doing this interview with me, man.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So, do you have any last minute remarks that you'd like to say to everyone before we end the interview?
I mean, to all those who want to, learn modding or learn how to make ships, just go through trial and error. It can be hard sometimes, but just try your best and see what works for you. And if things aren't working out, then I mean, hey, there's always the other ship editors out there who can give you some words of advice too. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, do you have any plugs that you would like for me to plug in the description or something? Like, do you have Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube channel or anything?
Nah.
Nope.
Nah.
Well, I'll tell you guys. Like, if you want to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and who knows what else, all of that is in the description. So, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Definitely go check those out. And with that, I think that will conclude our interview. Like, thanks for joining me, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
So thank you guys for joining me for this interview with Finalizer, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.
Cue the outro.